Start with that top story. Government says it has already started paying millions of rand in compensation for the Marikana Massacre, and it wants to wrap up the outstanding claims urgently. This after legal representatives for some of the affected miners and families claimed government had left them without any support. So, who has the government paid and who is still waiting? Govan Whittles is on the story. He joins me now. Hello, Govan. So just talk to us about how much government has actually paid out and to whom.
Well, Sally, they've paid out about 100 million rand, and those could be classified in two sections. First, the 69 million rand, or about 70 million rand that was mentioned earlier, which was paid to the families of the mine workers that were killed by the police in that massacre on the 16th of August 2012, and they were paid for a loss of support. So that first batch of 69 million was paid to families who would have been receiving money from mine workers employed at Lonmin while they were at their homes, and the amount was quantified based on how much they would have received over an extended period of time until those workers had to retire from Lonmin. And then the 30 million rand, which is the other amount, has been paid to mine workers who were arrested and then detained after they were shot by the police in 2012. And those mine workers lodged a successful claim for compensation for unlawful arrest and detention, and so far the South African Economic Rights Institute confirming that 30 million rand has been paid to them. So let's have a look now from the Solicitor General about the other claim, which is related to damages which are being claimed by the families of those mine workers who have died. So aside from the loss of support, they're also claiming damages for psychological trauma, hospitalization, and some of the effects of having to go through the counseling for the Marikana Massacre. Let's have a look at what the Solicitor General had to say about that claim and how much they were willing to pay.
We needed to be reasonable under the circumstances, and to the extent necessary, we believe that we, as the state, we needed to approach this matter with some degree of humanity. And without prejudice, we then said we are prepared as government, as the state, to pay to all the claimants that were represented by the Socio-Economic Rights Institute an additional 500,000 rand without prejudice, of course. That claim for the general and constitutional damages is still in court, but we needed to offer 500,000 rand pay family. And that offer has been rejected. I think it must be placed on record that that offer has been rejected. In fact, a counter offer was that they needed 1.5 million per each of the claimants that they were representing.
All right, so I'm a little unclear about what is new today. Is this relating to the damages, or is there another amount? It's confused as well by the announcement that some of it has been rejected. So just give us the full picture where we are now after today's announcement.
Right, so that 500,000 rand that the Solicitor General was mentioning was for the damages, which is still being claimed by the families of the workers who died. And he says there that that offer was rejected out of hand. We understand that to be the case. And one of the reasons we understand that to be the case is because from the initial 69 million rand, which was paid to the families of the workers who died for a loss of support in the future, the payments had ranged between a minimum of one family, an entire family, getting 125,000 rand, and then another family getting 3 million rand. And the range would differ based on how old the worker was when he was killed by the police in the massacre, and how much the earnings would have been going forward. So the families, we understand, a little bit hesitant to accept the government's offer after realizing from the 69 million rand that it won't be as much as they think they need to be able to survive without their loved ones in their lives. And then the second group of claimants, which is also quite interesting, are those that were injured and assaulted during the massacre and have now been left unable to continue working and unable to continue earning. So they're claiming for a loss of future earnings. And we understand that claim to still be underway, many of them represented by Advocate Dalimpofu, and Socio-Economic Rights Institute saying that so far there's no clarity on when that claim will be resolved. But let's have a look at what the Solicitor General had to say about this group of claimants and when that might be resolved.
fundamentally, those that passed away, all of them, we have in fact settled those matters. Those that are still alive, we are in fact requesting that we need to be ramping up issues of settlement. But as it were, we are actually in the receiving end from a litigation point of view, not because we are not a caring state, we are a caring state. We are in fact engaging with all the attorneys that are representing the claimants in this matter, and we are desirous that these matters cannot be with us forever. The category of matters that in fact we have been dealing with, we have had matters relating to loss of support, past hospital and medical expenses, future medical expenses and hospitalization, emotional shock and psychiatric injury, grief and emotional suffering, loss of family and or parental support, and general damages. We recognize, and those are recognizable heads of damages in terms of our common law, and we don't have a problem with those. But there is yet another category amongst the matters that we might not be settling as at the moment, of those that were injured and hospitalized. And whilst they were lying in that hospital bed, they probably would have been police within the ward. So whilst we are prepared to pay for their injuries, such as has been sustained from the incident, there are those that in fact have lodged other claims to say, as they lay there in that hospital bed, they want to sue under another head of damages, which is arrest and detention. Now, there is no agreement as to whether any one of the injured persons that might have been hospitalized could ordinarily, in terms of our applicable prescripts, be deemed to have been under arrest when they were in fact lying in those hospital beds.
So, Govan, we've got a lot of money so far. 69 million rand, you explained, for loss of income, paid out already. 30 million rand for mine workers who were arrested and detained, unlawful arrest and detention. The damages claim, which is still being discussed, and then also the injured and assaulted. We're talking 9 years down the line here. I'm wondering if the action will ever stop, the legal action, because we also heard yesterday about plans to sue Lonman, plans to sue Cyril Ramaphosa. So 9 years down the line, where are we? Are we nearly done? Are we nearly wrapped up the claims? Or do you think that there's still going to be many legal battles down the line?
Well, it does appear that the state is still ready to continue defending itself in anticipated litigation, particularly from people whom it doesn't believe are entitled to sue for being placed under arrest while in the hospital bed. And the state saying there it's not clear if they were arrested. The police would be able to determine that if those people were informed of their arrest and read their rights. So that is something that could be resolved in a court of law. But then to go a step further, there does appear to be a big case looming for the damages claims, which the state has described its offer of 500,000 as generous and something that's been given by a caring government. But from what we understand, the families believe they're entitled to, based on the harm that was inflicted not only on them, but on their broader families, and the generational harm which would arise from their family member not being there to provide for them. So it does look like there's still a lot of disagreement about what is owed to the victims of the Marikana Massacre. And then, coming up in the near future, we know the Economic Freedom Fighters is planning to privately prosecute the now president for his role in the run-up to that massacre, and has asked the National Prosecuting Authority to sign a letter of non-prosecution so that they could take it up privately, much like AfriForum has been doing with its private prosecution. So it does look like the Marikana Massacre will still be debated, and the compensation that's due to the victims would have to be thrashed out in a court of law.